I hear one of you hadn't read yet. You can sign out now.
That waiting list at the library is a killer.
Well, we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
I can get the book.
Cool.
Yeah, not a problem. I get you hooked up. You'll have to read it though.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, we're giving it just a second to your face. We're giving it just a second to loop into everyone else's internet. Is yours connected? Yours is. Mine is not. I'm gonna hit refresh. It's just so hard to tell when it's actually like going for everybody. Oh, I'm not muted.
Mine won't come off the pause screen. This thing's finicky.
There we go. Okay. Peggy said she had to buy this one. Sorry.
You know, someday, whenever we have enough people who are joining us, we think we want to like give out books for free and stuff like that. I think it'd be really
cool.
know,
just from like a random picker on comments on the syllabus episode or just something like that, just to reward, or like not a reward, but like a thank you to everyone who's been following along. I think that would be really cool.
Well, and having to get books every 3 weeks can stack up.
Right, and I really wanted to make sure when we first started that these were easily accessible books. But, you know, what my library has and what your library has and what their library has, it's all different. So, books should just be free for everybody all the time. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you having troubles?
I can't get this to go away.
Oh.
Which is weird.
Oh, it's just got a wee glitch, but it's like current. Oh, you just all froze up. Yeah. Oh, you got a problem. Oh, technology.
It's still bad.
Okay, well, I'm doing great.
Okay, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Ready?
Yes, ma'am. Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason.
I'm Nicole.
And today is our first... I forgot how the rules work. Today is our first reading of The Silent Patient by... Alex Michaelides.
Yep, this is episode 29 of our show. Oh, Allison.
Good.
Bought it too. How many gadgets we got? Yeah, we've got this and this and this.
I'll take a photo and we'll post it. We talked about doing that before.
It's not really that fancy, and we need really to get a mic. Okay, yeah, we just posed for a picture. Sorry. Yeah, we do need to get a mic. The sound quality is not where I want it to be. But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about The Silent Patient.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh. Okay, so I read all of our first week's reading while doing laundry last Sunday, and I wanted an emergency session of books we never read right then.
She's not joking.
Midnight Monday morning. I was like, we have to talk about it.
She came in here and was like, have you read anything? No, not at all. She's like, well, I need to have an emergency session. And that's not how it works, because we only talk about these books with you guys. We do not talk about them by ourselves, with the exception of Dinner Friday. We did talk about the book generally with some other people.
Oh, we did.
But we didn't talk about anything specific.
Nothing. Yeah, all the things that I wanted to talk about, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. None of that came out.
Yeah.
And so when one of us has a moment of weakness and wants to talk about it, the other one's like, wait, write it down. We'll talk about it on Sunday. We've been really, really good about it. Yeah. And we've both had moments of, but like, can we talk about it real quick?
Most of the people in my office at work, I'm just like, I'm reading this book and this is what you're going to know about it now, since I can't talk to her about it. So let's do the housekeeping stuff first.
Yeah, so housekeeping. Before we get started, please make sure this is the video that you really want to be watching. We talk about this section of the book as if you have already read it. So spoilers abound. Also, if you're with us live, please interact with us in the chat. And if you're watching later, please interact with us in the comments below. It's our favorite part about the book club, that we get to keep discussing these books after we've read them. I feel like this is really like just blown my reading comprehension and memory up by 50,000%. Like, you know what I mean?
50,000.
I usually read a book and forget it.
Yeah.
And it's just done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I liked it. And I'll remember that I liked it or I didn't like it. But I won't remember why or those
Yeah.
cool rich details, but the fact that we're talking about it and then that we get to keep talking about it, it's become such a rich part of my life.
Yeah. I definitely look forward to it, right? Every Sunday I look forward to it. And so far there haven't really been any bummer books except for Dan Brown. Come on, bud.
And it wasn't even a bummer.
It was a bummer.
Was it a bummer?
I mean, it wasn't good.
It was fine.
Okay.
I don't. Well, to you, I know that I can't tell you what you think about the book.
Thank you.
Sorry. Anyway.
Yeah. Definitely, I'm interested in hearing, like, as we're talking, y'all go ahead and let us know what y'all think so far of this, because so this is what's interesting is, like, I suppose we're gonna call this a mystery, right? And the only other mysteries that we've read was Dan Brown, and I don't know that we would call the Stephen King book a mystery. Like, I would just call it kind of like a horror.
No. Yeah.
And then the other mystery that we read was 7.5 Deaths.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was
And
so good.
there are a lot of callbacks to me in some ways of 7.5 Deaths, right? Nothing that I could like really put my finger on, but just
I was gonna say.
yeah, but just about murder and about but sort of about like the mental aspect of it, right? Because you kind of felt like your main character was going insane by the end of it because he was trying to keep track of everything.
Also, the reliability of the narrator is in question here, as it was in 7.5 Deaths, because the narrator kept not changing, but the personalities that he had to deal with kept changing, and his viewpoints kept changing. What he had experienced.
I think 7.5 Deaths is probably the most unpopular book on the channel right now, and I think that's really unfortunate. And so if you missed that book, at the end of this book, if you like it, I suggest going back and reading 7.5 Deaths. If you didn't do that one,
it was really good.
It was really good.
And I mean, and it was a lot at times to keep track of. I probably took the most notes ever on that book because there were so many characters and so many details and things that mattered. Everything played on everything else.
Yeah. Can I do a plug for our notebooks?
Yeah.
Look, we're not sponsored by anybody, so I'm not getting paid to tell you all this, but these are awesome. Both of us use these Rocket notebooks. We have different kinds, I think. But what you do is it's almost like a dry erase page, and you write on it.
Except it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't rub off. You have to use water on mine to rub it off. And but anyway, but the cool thing is that there's an app that you can scan the pages, and so it keeps all of it. So I have most of the notes, not from all of our books. I kind of quit doing it, but from all of our early books, especially Three Body, I still have all of my notes.
Yeah, but it lets you make categories, and so you can take notes on whatever part of your life. You can use one notebook for everything. Upload it to your Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox. It connects to all kinds of things, and it just kind of like categorizes everything for you. And they're really cool. And then you just wipe it clean and you start over again. So you can use this one notebook, just hundreds of times. And then there's different ones that has like planner pages built in along with blank pages. It's again, we're not sponsored by it, but it is really cool.
We're not sponsored by nothing.
But if you're interested,
it's great. I really enjoy doing these. If I were taking notes on like a paper notebook, I think it'd be a problem because this thing can fit easily in my backpack that I take everywhere. And there are notes in here. There's a page of notes. This is about work. This page right here. This is deception point still. Right. So I just have everything in there.
So but back to the book, and I'll have to put like a comment in the description box below. Be like, you can skip this part. We're just talking about our notebook.
This is very standard for sure.
And so I guess Peggy, that counts as a gadget too, huh? Peggy says that she feels like this is a Jason book, and we get more Greek stuff.
Yeah. Okay,
so about that, that painting or the self-portrait called Alcestis.
Yes.
That story, she was sent to Hades instead of her husband.
Yes.
And was rescued eventually, but never spoke again.
Mm-hmm.
And so immediately, that tells me that she's trying to communicate something to the world about this event that has happened.
Right. Well, yes.
So I'm not convinced that this is, and if it were as simple as just a murder and she went to prison, never spoke again, or went to a psychiatric place and never spoke again, there wouldn't be a story to tell.
Right.
So I'm not convinced that this is just a murder.
Okay. I have a similar theory.
Tell me yours.
So we thought about maybe putting it in the envelope and revealing it if I was right. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to just tell you now? It doesn't matter to me.
That's kind of fun. I like that.
You want to do that? Okay, so I have a theory based solely on nothing in this book, but on the reactions I get from people who like this book, and when they're like, "It's amazing." I can't think of anything so far that's amazing. So I have a theory, and I'm going to write it down. We'll stick it in an envelope, just like the time I was writing about Jean Behai, right? So,
Yeah. And I tape it to the inside of my notebook, and then we reveal it at the
Yep.
end. And then that way, you have your guess. It doesn't ruin anything for
Right.
us.
yeah.
Because
So
we
I've
do
got my
have to
guess.
be careful
Yeah.
about all these little guesses. I make guesses, but I just like wildly guess about everything. So there's really, I'm not good at it.
Mm.
But he is good at it. And usually, if he makes a guess, it's right.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to ruin anything.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that it's right. But so here's the point, right? The story of Alcestis is a little more complicated.
Ooh, tell
right?
us.
So Alcestis is like one of these like semi-child brides, right? Like it wasn't like the dude was necessarily the love of her life that she replaced. He was an arranged marriage by her father, which most of them were at the time. But basically, he got sideways with some gods. I think it was Artemis. I think I'm not sure about that. And basically, he got cursed, and then they had to make a deal with basically the fates and death to say that whenever it came time for him to die, somebody else could take his place. And they asked everybody, and nobody would do it. Nobody was willing to do it for him. And so finally, Alcestis was like, "All right, I'll go," and so she goes in his place, right?
Mm.
And so that's the catch. And the reason I'm saying that is to Peggy's point that there is a lot of Greek stuff here, right? And the Greek stuff that we see is heavily related around the idea of gods, right? So we have Alcestis, which is a Greek name, and we've just told the story of that. The psychiatrist's name is Lazarus Diomedes. Diomedes means godlike cunning. And Lazarus is, of course, a very famous character from the Bible who is raised from the dead, right? Our narrator's name is Theo Faber. Theo meaning God in Greek. And on top of that, we have this like bizarre situation where, God, what's the woman's name?
Alicia?
Alicia. Where she is painting a picture of Jesus dying.
But puts her husband.
But she puts Gabriel in as Jesus.
And Gabriel is?
Her husband.
And means?
I don't know.
What other famous Gabriel's?
Well, from the Bible, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure there's a connection there.
There might be.
Yeah.
If there's a connection with the other names, why would he leave one out?
Gabriel was a messenger of God. Maybe. Right? Definitely all these names are meaning something, but I don't draw quite the same strong connection. But so I'm not saying that this is going to be like all of a sudden like the gods came down and told them how to do all this. But there is some strong connection being drawn for us between sacrifice and the gods, right? What do?
Yeah. So we have that. We also have through where we've read an introduction to Alicia's solicitor, which is her brother-in-law, who hates her.
Yes.
So there's like something there.
And so we don't quite know yet why he hates her.
Right.
And it's not just the murder. It seems to be that he hates her beforehand. Right.
Yeah, that everything was always about her. Yeah. That her husband had to go through all kinds of hoops to keep her happy.
Yeah.
But when you look at their marriage, like through the diary entries and the descriptions of what her life is like, she's completely isolated. She's happy, but she has nobody else.
Yeah.
Except for him in her life.
Yeah.
She does go out in public places and everything, but she's not with anybody when she goes to those public places. She just is out by herself.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting to me. Some little nuggets.
Yeah.
To hang on to.
I want to loop back around to sacrifice real quick because I thought of one more thing.
Yeah.
Theo has this idea that I think is ridiculous. That it is a therapist's job to feel everything for their client and then to like feed it back to them a little bit at a time. And I think that's weird.
I feel like that's really unhealthy.
It's not good. And but that is a form of sacrifice, right?
Right.
So, and we can get more into like the mental health bit in a little bit, and what I think
I
about
mean,
all that.
isn't that what Jesus did? He took all of the sins
Yes,
for
it
humanity,
is. So I
and
don't.
now we all get it back, and we have to be like, sorry.
I guess
The permanent guilt. I mean, just think of
I'm not sure.
Catholics.
I'm not sure of the specifics. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but so again, we have this element of sacrifice, especially with Theo, right? Well, let's go ahead. Let's go there, right? It is not uncommon in the mental health world. I'm in this world, um, for people to think that they are there to save people, right?
Mhm.
And so there's this like sort of savior complex, right?
Mhm.
Which is what Alcestis has, which is potentially what Alicia has, which is definitely what Theo has. And I think all of that is incredibly unhealthy, right? But so this idea that I should somehow I can save people, maybe by sacrificing a little bit of myself, but because I can, you know.
Mhm.
And so like again, like it's just like another one of those things that ties in. And I don't know anything about the author, but like I don't. God, if somebody told me I think my job is to show up here at work every day and feel a little bit so other people can get it fed back to them, I'd be like, you need to take a break.
Mhm.
So you can't come to work for a week or so.
Yeah. No, I think that's
Yeah.
pretty dangerous.
Yeah. You know, at dinner Friday, we were talking about, you know, Theo says that everybody gets into mental health because they feel like because they're a crazy person, they're trying to doctor themselves.
Right.
I was told the same thing in school, right? I was told that, and like I just don't think that's true. And my
There's crazy people everywhere in all professions.
Yeah.
There just happen to also be crazy people who are.
yeah my
Mental
position,
health.
just to be clear on this, like I don't really I'm not a therapist. I don't do sitting down talking about your childhood and all that. I just fix problems, right? Like I just figure it out, we get there. The people I work with are not on a level where they can like have these like deep psychoanalytical, you know, thoughts. And I think there's like some value to that, and I think it's really interesting, just not for most people, right? Um, and I think like doing that in like a psych ward is like really you're trying to get people to stop eating nails and stuff like that, right? Which is I think what they said one of the people was doing. Anyway, um, I think people get into mental health because they want to be wizards, right?
Yeah.
They want to be able to read minds. They want to like know cool tricks, right? Like that's what people think they're doing, right? They think they're going to be a wizard, and that's why they do it. I'm sure some people have their own problems and are trying to understand themselves, but I doubt that that rises to a conscious level in most cases. Um, but if you said that, like, why can't you say that people become accountants because they want to understand their own tax problems, right? Like, I'm sure that happens, but it's probably not the case for most situations, right? Like, so.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess that's kind of my thought on it, and I feel like the whole that whole dynamic is a little like weird and icky to me. But maybe it's supposed to be because maybe Theo is not in a great spot and has like some weird ideas about how this
Right.
works.
Yeah. This book is not meant to be a manual of like how to do things right.
Clearly not.
So there's also this other component of the book that we haven't talked about yet, and that's Theo's personal life and his marriage.
Yeah.
And how is this going to be connected to the story of him helping Alicia?
Yeah.
Is it just these are the things that are affecting him at home, which kind of overflow into his work, which we saw happen when he was talking about, you know, sometimes I'm angry with my wife, you know.
Right.
And that was not good.
Yeah.
Or are we going to see a deeper connection? Who's her affair with?
Yeah.
Remember when he had that conversation with the security guard about how he was following somebody and like he kept messing with her and she didn't want anything to do with him? And like Theo was all uncomfortable.
Yeah. Huh.
What was that about?
That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
So that's a good guess. I have a joke theory, but I can't tell my joke theory without giving away my real theory. So y'all are gonna have to wait. But yeah, who's Bad Boy 22? So
why do people give themselves these weird names?
Yeah.
When they like are looking for internet
Mm-hmm.
love. What is her name?
Oh, I don't know.
It was something stupid.
Yeah.
I'm like, why?
I think about this. I think about dumb names all the time because when I worked at the university while I was still a student, we were doing like student interviews for people coming in to the college, and on one of the resumes, some kid wrote Hufflepuff Seeker at like Hogwarts.com or whatever, and that was like their email.
Oh my god.
And I was like, no, not professional.
Peggy said, did not expect him to be married, as fixated he is with Alicia.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
why is he so fixated with her?
No, I don't know. I mean, like, and some people develop. I mean, look, right? Some people just like watch court of random people because they're interested, right?
That's true. But you would not, in your professional capacity, would you seek to like engage?
So I have been to death row in our state and talked to one of the most famous murderers from our area. Just because, just
yeah,
because I was there and I could,
yeah.
And I didn't like do therapy or anything. Right. I just said hi because like why not, right? Yeah, I think I might. So, I wouldn't like take a pay cut and go to like some doomed place or whatever. But
yeah.
But I mean, like that part is somewhat understandable to me, right? Like there's almost like a. I'm not saying that Theo is scientific at all, but there's like a research aspect to it, right?
Yeah.
And he became interested in it through the story and through going to see Alcestis in the museum and all that stuff. And like, do I think it is extreme? Yes, right? Like waiting for your chance to go take this move, I think is weird. If they were just like, hey, you have to go to Briarcliff or wherever they call it for the day, and then he was like, I'll go talk to her. Sure, like why not? But yeah. We didn't find out he was married for like half of this reading.
Yeah.
Like it
I
just
thought
wasn't
it was
there.
a lie
Yeah.
when he told the security guard that he was married. I was like, oh, he's just lying.
Mm-hmm.
Should I take a second and put my phone on Do Not Disturb?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Yeah. Y'all just close your eyes for a second. We might be shaking the camera.
All right, sorry.
All right, there we go. Thank you. Okay. So Alicia's backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom tried to kill her.
So, sorry. Yeah, maybe.
As far as what she can understand from what happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a biased narrator here, right? Who is already potentially unwell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who then says, "My mom crashed this car to kill me."
Mm-hmm. You're thinking maybe that's not what happened?
I don't really have any strong thoughts about that.
Maybe it's just an accident.
Yeah. Maybe. But like, it's not uncommon for kids to think that everything's about them, right? Like when parents get divorced, kids will oftentimes be like, well, what could I have done?
Mm-hmm.
And we do that too, right? We do that with all sorts of stuff, if I had only done this, then maybe this tornado wouldn't have come or whatever, right? We all have this like magical sort of thinking. And whenever somebody has that kind of thinking and it's left unchecked, it develops into something that's significantly more complicated. And so I'm just not sure about that whole story, but it is interesting. Yeah. Allison says, who told her this though? No one told her this. She made this up. So yeah, Peggy says Lydia would know, and that's a good point. Maybe we'll find out some more. Now here's what's interesting.
Wait,
right?
who's Lydia?
Lydia's the aunt that he's going to go visit, or Lydia's the aunt that won't talk to him.
Right, but the secretary wife of her brother-in-law
says to go talk to a cousin, but it's a male cousin. I think,
yeah.
So
you go talk to all of them?
Let's go on now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Here's what I was gonna say. Yeah, so we have access to Alicia's diaries. Theo does not, as best we know. And so we are aware of some information at this point that Theo doesn't necessarily know. And so I just want to point that out so that we can hold that in our minds, right? That he does not know about this car accident situation. He might know that she was in a car accident, right? That might just be like some biographical information that he had available to him.
The Wikipedia.
But also, like, because she came in not speaking, unless it was like in her medical records from like wherever, from her deep past, which like might be something that they could get in England because they have like a national health service, like that would be incredibly difficult for us to find here. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think he really is aware of that stuff at this point. Yeah. So what is that about? What if her mom crashed what if this is another sacrifice thing? What if her mom crashed the car, trying to kill both of them to save them from something terrible?
we know anything about her dad?
I don't know.
And so if that's the case, right? I mean, we're just wildly speculating. That needs to be a shirt because I feel like I said that a lot. But, there was something else that we talked about wildly speculating. Okay, if the mom crashed the car as a sacrifice,
yeah,
or protection, or something, that could maybe it's the dad that's the problem in that.
Right.
And that checks out right with Alcestis or whatever. That kind of lines up with Theo's childhood too, where his dad was kind of terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we haven't even gotten to all that stuff. Yeah, there will be somehow a merger of those stories, right?
Right.
There has to be. So here's what I'm thinking now, right? Like, Alicia with her mother was, in her mind, involved in a murder-suicide that did not end in murder. And then we come to the present situation where we need to remember that this was supposed to be a murder-suicide because she had cut herself, but it did not end in suicide. So, but it's almost like she's taken on this role of her mother, right? God, that sounds psychoanalytical, and I hate it. I don't really hate it. This is where I think that kind of talking is helpful,
right?
So yeah, I mean, like we are seeing a mirror of that, right? Somehow.
And at the beginning of each, he had money and died. That's what happened to Alicia's dad.
Gotcha. Okay.
Interesting. At the beginning of like each part, we get a couple of quotes. Like we get one from Freud about how secrets don't stay secrets.
Right.
And we've got plenty of that, right? I mean, Theo's wife's secret didn't stay a secret. And he even talked about how, surely she left her laptop easily visible and open to the emails because she wanted to get caught.
Yeah.
And for an actress, it should be easy to keep secrets, right? I mean, you just lie for a living.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not convinced that in this case that is what you want to write, but but people who do crimes will often keep mementos of it, and it's not necessarily that they want to be caught, but they are opening a door so that they can be, right? Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's my 2 cents on it. I think it's rare. It does happen that people want to be caught. That is true, but I think it's hard to put a motive onto somebody, especially when you haven't discussed it with them. So.
Right. And talking about motive, this just made me think of this. We in some current crime, real life drama that's been going on in the world. We've been talking about why do we need to establish motive? All you need to do is establish guilt that the person did the thing.
Correct. Yeah.
And we are so juicily interested in motive. Why do people do these things that are so grotesquely outside of the realm of acceptability? And so that's the thing with Alicia, right? I actually want to know, did she actually kill him? Maybe he cut her wrists, and
but he was tied up.
He was. Maybe she tied him up
after she got her wrist cut.
Yeah. Maybe there was somebody else there.
Maybe.
I mean, so maybe she did pull the trigger, but maybe there was more to that story. And
started to get in on my theory.
And we just don't know. So I think, motive is juicy and interesting, but it doesn't actually address the situation of what's the actual crime that happened here. And because she won't talk, we can't know.
Yeah.
Maybe she's trying to protect him, because she was being gaslit for so long.
Maybe.
But maybe he was abusing her.
Yeah. I don't think that the reaction I get from people when I tell them I'm reading this book is proportionate to that explanation.
Like gaslighting and
that's
too
mundane.
Yourself.
Yeah, it's too normal. I think, and so I don't know. But certainly that kind of thing happens, right? And if I were to kill someone who had been abusing me, it would only be self-defense if I hadn't tied them up first, right? Because if I've tied them up, I can't shoot them, right? At least here, I don't know. But once you tie somebody up, you don't get to kill them anymore, right? They are no longer a threat to you. Call the cops, get out, And so if it was supposed to be a story that we could understand as easily as that, it would have to be like she shot him and he wasn't tied up, or
Mm.
something, right? Like I was being actively abused right
Mhm.
now, right? That is something I find sympathetic, you know.
What do you notice about the things that set Alicia off? The things that trigger her to violence at Briar Place
Yeah,
or whatever
it
it's
tends
called.
to be stuff like he deserved it, right? That he did not care about her, you know. Not necessarily that she didn't care about him, even though there's a little bit of that in there. But it's when he says he deserved it, right? That's when she attacks him.
Yeah,
And and whenever
crazy Russian lady or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So she does not like the idea that he did not treat her right
Mm-hmm.
at all. And could that be an effect of gaslighting? Like certainly it could be, right? Like
right.
almost like a Stockholm syndrome sort of situation, you know. I just think it's too easy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's too easy.
But I think, with this, with so much conversation about Theo's wife and the cheating, there's got to be something else in it about Alicia and her husband and some infidelity. There's got to be something in there about that.
I disagree.
There's just no way around it.
Yeah. This story is all of the motifs here are about sacrifice, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of them are about sacrifice. Alcestis
Mm-hmm.
and the Jesus pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? If he was cheating on her, so she killed him, and then just didn't tell anybody that's what he did, where's the sacrifice?
Right. No, you're right. But I'm not saying that she killed him because of the cheating.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she killed him to protect him from learning about her infidelity.
So then where's the sacrifice?
Sacrificing.
I mean, like in a weird twisted way, you could say that he became the sacrifice.
Yeah.
But that's not. But it's not
Well,
a sacrifice if you're not paying it, right? So.
Yeah, he paid for her sins.
I guess, but I don't know.
Right?
I don't buy that either, right?
She did the bad thing, and he died to protect that.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna read this book to find out that she's a terrible person. Just, you know, she was cheating and she's a murderer. Surprise, right? Like I don't know. I don't know.
The BIL brother-in-law said that she tried to kill herself before. Right. So we know that.
Yeah.
We know that things aren't well, and why? I mean, is it just depression? Or like, is there a reason? Is she feeling guilty about something?
Could be. It could also be that a past suicide attempt is in no way related to a current.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
I cannot wait to keep reading. It was so hard to stop myself. I was real tempted to just lie to everyone.
Yeah.
And say like, oh, I didn't read past chapter 12, part 2.
Well, it sounds like Greg went ahead and read the whole thing, so it'll be so he already knows, and he's sitting back there somewhere laughing at everybody trying to figure out what's going on.
At Greg Fox said he read it in 3 days instead of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
He said it's totally a beach read.
Yeah. And it really could have been read quicker, I'm sure. But
oh my gosh, I could have read this whole thing in one day.
Doing 3 weeks is
it gives us time to really flesh things out and think about things and enjoy it, like savor it.
Yeah. So Peggy says in the Greek play, she offered to go to Hades because she didn't want to live without him or have the kids not have a father.
Interesting.
But and so I'm on board, right? Like murder suicide, I get, right? Like I think of there's really no spoilers here. Sorry if you feel like this is, but in The Last of Us, it's available on HBO. It's fantastic. There's an episode where there's this gay couple and one of them is sick and is going to die, and so one of them he mercifully kills him basically and then kills himself, and so like that makes sense to me, right? Mm-hmm. This is going to happen, and so if they said Gabriel had cancer and he was going to die a slow miserable death, so she kills him and then tries to kill herself, I get that, but you generally don't blow somebody's head off and tie them up to do that, right? You feed them tons of sleeping pills, right? Theo has tried to commit suicide, right? And then threw it all up or whatever. He did it the way that you would expect somebody to do it if you were trying to like go out with the love of your life or whatever. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I cannot. We gotta go. I gotta
Bye.
No. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What else are y'all thinking, Allison? Get in there. Tell us what you're thinking. Oh my gosh.
I almost think that so we are clearly meant to draw. We are led to believe that there is this close link between Theo and Alicia because Theo thinks that there is this close link. Theo has infidelity in his life, which then makes us think, oh, since he's the foil for Alicia, there must be infidelity. And Alicia's like, and
it.
I don't.
It's just not. It doesn't have to be that way.
I don't. Yeah, don't think it has to be that way. There is something else here, and it's about the gods and it's about sacrifice.
So okay. So what role do you think the director, or not the director, the guy, Diomedes?
Lazarus. Yeah.
What role do you think he's going to play in all of this?
I think he's there almost to be more of like a voice of like stability, right? Because I don't think Theo is doing okay.
Right.
And so I don't know that he really has any role besides being. We have like two main other psychological figures, right? We have Lazarus, and then we have the guy that Theo doesn't like, whatever his name is, the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Which like don't disrespect your psychiatrist because neither of you are that guy, and he's the boss. Here he's the boss, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we have this like it's almost like a good angel bad angel kind of situation, right? Not that they're both giving him advice or anything, but we have this tension between him and this other guy, and then like a more friendly relationship with Diomedes, where we can really get into the meat of like the psychoanalytic sort of like theories and what's going on, right? He needs somebody to be able to discuss that with,
right? Because he's already done as much as he could with her,
right? But like you just have to be able to have that conversation because that's kind of what this book is about, right? It's about these things that we have in our mind, right?
And he's the one who convinced the judge in her trial to release her to his facility and not to prison.
Correct. But like I think of like I think a lot about like Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces, right? And sort of like the hero myth and all the different stages, right? And all of that is like just psychoanalysis under a different name, right? Like it's just this. And so to be able to have conversations about those sort of complicated ideas, Theo just has to have somebody he can talk about it with. And I get the feeling that that's kind of where Diomedes is. Diomedes is also somebody who has like been down this rabbit hole and been able to come back out, right? So he's almost more of like a father figure than anything.
Right. Peggy mentioning Greek plays just kind of makes me think of like elements of Greek tragedies. You've got like peripeteia, a reversal of a situation. It's the Darth Vader, what have I done? Or like anagnorisis, the realization of truth. Like, so I feel like all these things are gonna show up. But this is definitely gonna be a Greek tragedy.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so there's got to be some incest in a Greek tragedy. So watch out. There's my guess. Stick in an envelope. We'll see.
Peggy says that she shot him in the face of Jesus from her painting, and that's a good point too.
Yeah.
His face is in some way potentially symbolic to her. I don't know what that means. Yeah.
I had to whisper it. I didn't want YouTube to hear me.
Don't do that. So, I don't know. I have my guess, and unfortunately, I just can't elaborate. So.
And and Allison's comment, who told her? Who raised her?
Her mother.
After that?
Oh, I don't know.
The aunt that wouldn't talk to him?
No, the aunt is the aunt is I think Gabriel's aunt.
Oh. Okay.
I'm not
so
certain
who
about
raised
that,
Alicia after that?
The streets.
Peggy's writing down her guess. All right.
Do it.
Yeah, we want to hear how it all pans out.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have much else. We have all the bases, right? And this is how all of our books go, right? We our first week we're laying out the bases, kind of trying to figure out what's tying in together.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have like a real ramping up of the evidence this week, and then we'll have the dramatic final conclusion. Okay, she says it's her next at 10.
Okay.
So it's Alicia's end.
Okay.
All right. Well, you want to call it here and go read?
Yeah.
Well, as always, we appreciate everybody coming and joining us. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I hope that this one wasn't a little too rambly, but there was a lot going on, and all of them seem sort of like disparate threads, and so we have to tie them together. That's what you guys are here for.
It's just who we are.
Yeah. All right. So for the next week, what are we reading? Just to summarize.
Next week, join us for part 2, chapter 13, through part 4, chapter 2.
All right. See you there.
Can't wait. Happy reading.
Bye.
Bye.
Doop.
It's still going.